Hello there. My name is Ben Wilkoff, and I am the Apple Hunter. Each week I review the latest apps across the Apple ecosystem, and I help you to decide which ones are worth your time, which ones are better left at the bottom of the app charts. Each episode is broken into 3 sections. First comes the hunting landscape, an in-depth look at all of the apps that were launched this week, from the smallest screen on the Apple Watch to the largest screen on the Apple TV, and every Apple device in between. Next comes the hunt of the week, the one app you should download and use immediately. Finally, we come to the hunting horizon, a trend, important topic, or upcoming event that impacts Apple's platforms and needs a closer look. Well, let's get started with episode 8. We don't have any Apple Watch apps this week, but we do have a whole bunch of iPhone apps. So let's get started with Fitlink. Fitlink, as you might imagine, is a fitness app. But it doesn't cost any money, and there's no subscription service. It is an app that is fully supportive of you getting healthy by joining teams and groups and communities that are striving to get healthy alongside you. I found the app pretty compelling because of the challenges and the way that you can find other people on the leaderboard or find other people that you may want to challenge or participate within one of their virtual activity leagues. The idea is that you are inviting people into your fitness journey. And I think that's pretty spectacular, especially for a free service. It is pretty hard to get up the motivation to exercise a lot of the time. And if this is a way where you can find your kindred spirits, the people who like to do the same type of activities as you, if you can find that community within this app, I would definitely give it a shot. I think there are a number of features, including tracking all of the paths that you have run, as well as keeping track of where you are in your group on the leaderboard. It is playful, it is motivational, and it is free. What more could you possibly want in a fitness app? Next comes Framewrk, which is a fairly niche app for either new entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs who just want to get better at starting a business or running their business. The mechanics of the app are pretty different from any other service that I have seen that claims to help entrepreneurs to start and maintain their companies. First, it starts with an AI chat consultant who tells you how the app works and asks you questions to keep you on track. But that's where a lot of the artificial intelligence stuff stops and you start getting involved with real human beings. It provides you with business roadmaps as well as groups to join so that you can tend to your businesses over time alongside others who are in the same stage of their entrepreneurship. Other features that are fairly unique include the ability to watch business video tutorials that speak to a number of issues that entrepreneurs come across when they're starting up their business. They also allow you to take assessments for how well you are doing in certain areas of your business and provide you with recommendations or suggestions for how to get better at those particular components. But I think overall, the community tools and the ways of speaking with other involved individuals are where this app really hits home. They call the groups of entrepreneurs that they put together mastermind groups, and they provide opportunities for venting frustration, for brainstorming ideas, and really just talking through what it is like to be a founder or developer in an early stage startup. So if you are looking for a tool to help support you in your marketing, finance, team building, any part of starting up a business, I do think there is something really compelling about the way that this app is structured and the support that it provides for folks who are in that stage. The next app on the iPhone is called Cup Buddy, which is a caffeine tracker for those of you who struggle to keep track of all of your caffeine intake and specifically coffee. It is a really good looking app and well constructed, but there is one catch, and that is that until you have purchased unlimited access, you can't actually track anything. You can just look at the app and see all of the features. of which there are quite a few. You can set your limits and try and follow those limits. You can create widgets so that you can see how much intake you've had for caffeine in a day or week period. Now, if you are like me and you're really not interested in how much caffeine you are intaking because it is a bodily requirement for living every day and it doesn't keep you up at night, then this app might not be for you. But if you are like many people, including my wife, for whom caffeine, especially in the afternoon or evening, keeps them up, or that they worry about how much caffeine they are intaking, this app will hit you squarely in a deep need. And I think that's ultimately why it was created. I'm just impressed at how good looking it is and how much value you could derive from simply inputting each cup of coffee or soda you consume. So this is definitely an app that will work for some, but not for all. Now let's move to an app that has a very distinct entry point. It's called Apricot, where you can get home decor advice from so-called experts on the app. You have to be fully vetted if you want to become an expert within Apricot, but once you're in there, you can set a price for how much money per minute you charge for that advice. And you upload all of these pictures for the home decor that you have produced to give a good sense of anyone who might take your advice as to whether or not your aesthetic matches theirs. As a user of this service, I really enjoyed looking at all of the well put together homes and getting design inspiration even from the images. It just looks like a well curated Pinterest, ultimately, for home decor only. The cheapest consultant that I found was around 50 or 75 cents a minute, and then some other folks were more like $2 a minute or higher. Ultimately, I really like this microtransaction model where you have an expert that can give you advice for a price that seems reasonable, at least to you. I have seen a lot of advice services that connect people and allow for the transaction to take place, but I haven't seen one directly around home decor. And I haven't seen one that really presents such a beautiful portfolio for each one of the experts. A lot of times you just have to take their word for it that they are an expert in a particular area. But Apricot says, we want you to know who you are working with. We want you to know what kind of style they understand and how they are able to match your particular needs. I'm really curious to see if this works, both for the influencers who are the consultants within the app, as well as for clients who do want to upgrade their space in their home to make it look better or feel better. I think if the pandemic has taught me nothing, it is that it matters very much what the space looks like and feels like that you are spending so much of your time in. And if this app gets you closer to a more comfortable and more inviting space that you want to spend your time in, I am highly in favor of that. Definitely one to watch in the next year to see how well it is doing as people continue to go out more rather than staying in more. The next app that I have been using this week is called Don't Waste Today. It is a procrastination tracker that will bug you a couple of times an hour to ask you, are you procrastinating? And if so, why? And it gives a couple of options like fear of failure, too distracted, lack of emotion, you're overwhelmed, or something else that you just write in. Or you can say, I'm not procrastinating. And what's really cool is it gives you all of that data either at the end of the day, or you can spot trends over time as to whether or not you are getting distracted or procrastinating. And it lets you understand why you are doing those things. At first, I thought it was going to be kind of annoying to see this notification all the time and to have to go in and quickly tap one of the options there for why I was procrastinating or not, but it kind of wasn't. Ultimately, it was a nice way of reminding me what I was supposed to be working on. It was a nice way to draw back to the task at hand, because ultimately I don't have to be accountable to this Don't Waste Today app, but I do have to be accountable to time in general. I don't have an infinite amount of time to get my work done. And if this app is helping me or reminding me to get that work done, I am so there. In fact, I plan to challenge myself in the following week to see how often I can actually be on task and not procrastinating, not doing tasks that are unrelated to what I need to be working on, either for work or with my family. It just seems like a really easy way to give yourself the data and information about how to make changes in your working and waking life. The fact that it is a free app and one that is really just about helping you to figure out your own issues around procrastination or distraction, I think there is something really compelling about this app, and I plan to use it for a while. The next app is called Be.Live or Be.Live, which is a live streaming app, and it does things that I have wanted inside of a live streaming app forever. Essentially, you just need to connect up your Facebook account or your YouTube account in order to give it the live stream location or destination that you want. And then you can go live immediately from a front-facing or rear-facing camera to your YouTube channel. But it doesn't stop there. The real key features of this app are being able to invite others to join you in the live stream. Now, they can join you either from another iPhone or they can join you from their desktop or laptop computer, and they can do things like either use their webcam on the computer, or what's really cool is you can share your screen if you open it up in Chrome. It is absolutely the easiest way of getting a live stream up and running on your channel very quickly. There are a whole bunch of apps that do this, but they don't do it very well. They don't do it very simply, and they cost a bunch of money. There are a lot of live streaming applications that have come about either during the pandemic or just slightly before. I'm thinking about Streamlabs. Twitch has started up a bunch of stuff for it during the pandemic, but it does require a level of complication and technical know-how in order to get guests to come in or to switch back and forth between a guest and just the host. They just require too much understanding for how live streaming needs to work. You have to deal with RTMP servers, and if you don't know what that is, there's no reason to, but it's essentially this live stream server itself that all of these live streaming services use. I also really like the emphasis on security for the live stream. So you invite just a particular account to come and join you rather than an open link that anybody can join. Be.Live or Be.Live is something that I think a lot of live streamers and folks who want to get into live streaming are going to gravitate towards because it is so simple. It is one that I'm going to keep on coming back to as they continue to add features because there's a lot to love about Be.Live. The next iPhone app is Hablist. It's a habit tracker, pretty simple, but I do think that it's fairly elegant in its implementation. It has really great widgets. It lets you track your daily progress on a whole bunch of different areas. It's a simple check or don't check whether or not you have done something on a particular day. I don't think habit trackers have to be more complicated than that, but there are so many of them that require you to enter in a whole bunch of data just to be able to spot trends. I also like the fact that you can export all of your data into CSV or text formats, and it has so many of these useful self-development resources, like how-to documents on how to keep a habit going for longer than a few days. That is something that really resonates with me because I do want support, but I don't necessarily need another person to do that. I really can just read something and get a lot of value from looking at the advice of others and how they were able to maintain a habit over time. Now, if you want to keep track of more than 3 habits, you do have to pay for it, but it's a one-time fee rather than a subscription service, which a lot of these habit trackers have implemented. So I do think it's worth taking a look if you're looking for something simple, something easy, and something good looking to keep track of your habits. The next app is called Superlocal. Superlocal is what Foursquare would have been if it were invented in 2021. It really does feel like it's a brand new take on the same old check-in system for locations. The added benefit of Superlocal that I like a lot is it also presents local news for you. So when you enter into the app, you see this stream of local news, things that are going on this week or this month in the city you live in or in your area, so that you can get a good understanding of what's going on in your super local place. It does have an award system that allows you to gain experience within the app, and you can become mayor of places just like you could on Foursquare originally. But essentially, it's a discovery tool for all of the things that are going on nearby. But if you're looking to discover all of the things that are going on around you and you like the idea of getting achievements for going to places as things are opening back up, there's a lot to love about the way that this is structured. However, it is a brand new social network that I do think will require a lot more people being in your local area to get the full value out of it. And we'll see whether or not that happens over the next months and years as this service continues to gain in popularity. The last iPhone app of the week is called Addmin, but it's Addmin. They call it a smart personal digital binder, but essentially it's a way of scanning all of your documents around the house. It does some smart algorithmic kind of things where it's sensing what kind of document it is, tagging it with different things like finance or personal. And once you have all of those documents into the app, you can do different things with them, like putting them into an organized folder structure or a classification that it automatically senses. It also lets you search through those documents because it presents in-text keyword searching. So it's doing a little bit of OCR on the documents themselves. It also allows you to put reminders and key dates into your calendar from those documents. And while I wouldn't personally use this app to organize documents because I have tried to get away from paper as much as possible, for those folks who are still either stuck using paper because of the way their work requires it, or for people who just like paper but also want access to that information without having to go and find that piece of paper, I think it could be pretty useful for those folks. Let's move now to apps that are both across the iPad and the iPhone. But I'm focused on the iPad versions of these because I think that there's a lot of value in that larger screen size. This first one is called Brandwell, which is an application that lets you build visuals for social media. Essentially, it lets you pull in screenshots or photos or any other kind of image that you've got from the web and create a consistent branding look to the way in which you would structure those images. So you can actually create a 3D effect on each one of the images, turning it sideways or making it look closer in the foreground and further away in the background. You can add your own logos and change colors. There are patterns to put behind the images to make it look really nice. I like the idea of having a consistent branding place to go for when you need to upload an image to a social media site, but it does feel very niche. You have to be a person who is in charge of a brand. You have to be a person who uses the iPad or iPhone as your primary device for getting your brand across and creating visuals for that brand. And you have to like the somewhat limited set of tools that you have in the app in order to create those visuals. Now, they are really nice, and I do think that people will find value in them, but it is not a tool like Photoshop or Affinity Designer or some other graphic designing tool that gives you granular control of everything that you're doing. So if I have described you and the things that you want to be doing, then I would give it a shot. Otherwise, I do think there are other tools that provide a lot more options for you. The next app was a total surprise to me. It's the KCRW app, which is a public radio station in Santa Monica that I had only heard of in passing. But they have released an app that is for iPad and iPhone that is so well done, I felt like I had to talk about it on the Apple Hunter. You can connect up your Apple Music or Spotify account so that you can save any tracks that you listen to on the radio station or in one of the DJ's playlists. You can add them to your account for listening later. There's a whole bunch of discovery tools inside of the application that lets you get to know their radio personalities, their DJs, and the people that are curating all of the music for the station. I also really like the idea of pausing live radio and being able to come back to it if you're in the middle of a show that you really like. Most radio stations just put up a live feed or go into another app that aggregates all of the radio stations, but I really like what KCRW has done, which is pull all of their best stuff into a purpose-built application that supports you getting to know that radio station, having a specific affinity for these DJs and personalities. And while I don't need an app for every radio station out there, one that is as eclectic for music, news, talk, and culture is going to allow you to really have a strong connection to these people and to this radio station. I am using this app now to find new music as well as to listen to really well curated sets of music and stories that I wouldn't otherwise find if I didn't use this app. I think it does present a really compelling model for a lot of traditional media sources. If you do an app well, people will gravitate towards it. If you take the time to think through what a great experience is for music listening and for getting invested in the kinds of radio personalities that they are highlighting here, then it is a worthwhile endeavor. However, if you're just slapping all of your content into an app that looks like any other radio station, there's really no point. Just put up your live feed and let it get aggregated with everything else. But this is one to check out if you are interested in a well-done, purpose-built application for a radio station. This next app was very nearly the hunt of the week. I like it that much. It's called Light Wallpaper, and it lets you build the most beautiful wallpapers that I have seen on an iPad. Now, it could be the new 12.9 iPad with the brand new screen that makes it look quite so good, but I love the patterns that you can create. I love the customization that you can do in it. And it is such a perfect design. The aesthetic that it presents to you is just beautiful, and it matches what I would like out of a background. I want to see beautiful colors. I want to see that contrast. I do want it to feel joyful whenever I open my iPad to see what's on the background and see all of the apps, folders, and widgets that I've got there, that the background adds something to that experience. As a bonus, it also makes some really cool widgets to put on your home screen. You can do widgets for the time and for the date, but I really like the direction that they went in with this app. If you have ever found yourself wanting to generate beautiful wallpapers for your iPhone or iPad, I highly recommend you give Light Wallpaper a chance. I don't subscribe to too many Substack newsletters, but if I did, this next app would be absolutely on point. It's called Reader for Substack. It takes all of the subscriptions and all of Substack's publications and lets you read them in a really elegant way. It gives you a simplified reader view of all of your publications, but also gives you access to all of the publications that are available on Substack. So you can search for new newsletters, you can bookmark posts and save those publications for later on. And mostly, it's just a really good reading experience, which is what you're looking for. I think I struggle with the idea that I'm reading all of these newsletters that are heavily curated and super well written inside of my email app when I'm doing so many other things for work inside of the email app. I like having this purpose-built space that feels a little bit more leisurely for when I just want to read. If you find yourself needing a place to pull all of those Substack publications together, this app is definitely one to try. The next iPad and iPhone app is called Microvist, which is a social platform to help our planet. That's the way they put it anyway. The idea is that you challenge yourself to do different things like start composting or cycling to work. You find those challenges and then you challenge yourself with them. Give yourself a deadline. How many days do you want to do this for? And you can even choose to do it on your own or with somebody else that you invite to that challenge. So in a way, it's like Fitlink that we started the episode with, but for more socially conscious or environmentally conscious endeavors. I do like the social elements of it where people can encourage you and have conversations with you about your challenge. But ultimately, I think that this is a personal endeavor where you are trying to make the world a better place by taking these small actions. There is an achievement system where you get to unlock badges so that you know how well you're doing over time, I guess. But I can really get behind their philosophy. They say that there is no one person that is or isn't sustainable, that we take actions on our own to either make a more sustainable planet or a less sustainable one. And this app is encouraging everyone to make those actions known, to challenge yourself in order to become a better steward of the planet. And I think in that way, it really is a reach for a lot of folks, but one that is necessary. And with an app that is so well done, I think people might actually do more of the work to make this place better. The last iPad and iPhone app of the week is called Color Tap. It's a paint by numbers app. It's $3.99, which is a little bit pricey for what it is, but it's really kind of cute. and a lot of fun to play around with. It has a whole bunch of pixel artwork that your child or even you can use to paint by numbers. It has all of the classic themes of animals, people, planes, and vehicles that children absolutely go for. But as a basic coloring book app that doesn't have a subscription service and doesn't have any ads, it's really quite joyful. I quite like the character of the paint bucket that is ubiquitous throughout the app. Ultimately, it's just a really fun toy to play with, either with your child or letting them play on their own. The next app has actually been out for a little while, and I found out about it from my daughter, but they have relaunched and rebranded it as Poolsuite FM, the super summer music player. And the reason why I'm putting it in this part of the episode is that it is a strange cross-platform Mac and iPhone app. No iPad app, no Apple TV app. It's just Mac and iPhone. But those are the two platforms that I actually think benefit from it the most. If you have ever heard the idea that there should be a song of the summer, this is what the app does exclusively. The playlists and the channels that are within the app are around the idea of being poolside. The music is really good and is mostly artists that I had never heard of. There's a lot of indie rock in there. There's a lot of chill vibes, if you want to say it like that. But it is absolutely an app filled with pure joy. The retro futuristic kind of look that it's going for reminds me a lot of early Winamp builds. There's some really cool customization you can do around color and the way that the app looks and functions. But ultimately, it's just a radio station filled with nothing but good music that looks good and is well organized. I highly recommend Poolsuite FM to anyone who enjoys good music and summertime playlists. And I think you could even use it in the winter if you really wanted to. All right, let's move over entirely to the Mac and talk about Charmstone. Charmstone is one of the many launchers available for macOS. This one's a little bit different. With a couple of strokes on the keyboard, currently I have it set to Option-Command. Whenever I press Option and Command together, I get this square of applications that I can launch around my cursor. So right now I have it set to 4 different apps. I can go to Messages, Finder, Fantastical, and Safari, and each one of the icons sort of spread out like a flower around my cursor, and all I have to do is move to one of the corners to launch them. Now, I make heavy use of my touch bar, and I use an application called POC, which has my entire dock that just lives on the touch bar. So I have quick access, and that's sort of my launcher of choice. But I really like the one that Charmstone presents as an alternative way of getting to another app. You can also use it as an app switcher, right, instead of Command Tab. But ultimately, it is incredibly easy to use and quite adaptable to whatever applications you want to load into it for fast access. I also like the idea of adding folders and quickly launching each one of those just around your cursor. Because I use a touchpad, I constantly have one hand on my keyboard and one hand on my touchpad. So the combination of using your keyboard and the touchpad really works for me. I may give it a bigger chance if I move to a computer that doesn't have a touch bar, but for right now, I definitely use the touch bar far more for launching applications. The second and last app that we'll talk about on Mac exclusively is called Mac Layouts, and it is a tool that lets you have multiple layouts for your Mac screen. You can set up your windows exactly the way that you want them, and then with a quick keyboard shortcut or by opening the application itself and selecting the right layout, it will then take all of your windows that were open and arrange them exactly how you wanted them. The way that I'm seeing this is as a really nice complement to the focus tools that are coming in macOS Monterey. So imagine that you have a work layout. Your focus is work, and it will eliminate all of the notifications that you don't need to be getting. But what Mac Layouts can do is actually lay out your screen the way that you need it to be for that work to take place. I do think that shortcuts coming to the Mac may limit how many people end up using this tool, because I think shortcuts can also lay out your screen the way that you want it to, and you can invoke that with Siri and do a bunch of other things with Mac shortcuts. But until that's released, and even then, This is a really easy way to get multiple different layouts for your screen, for your apps, onto your Mac quickly and easily. All right, let's talk about the biggest screen in your house, the Apple TV. I throw this one in here because it reminds me of something that I grew up with in high school. It's a game called Bike Baron 2, and it is a really good-looking motorcycle simulation that is physics-based, and you get to navigate this world trying to get from one end of the track to the other by slamming your bike into things, doing things at impossible angles in order to make your way through the track. But it reminds me of this DOS game called Action Supercross that I used to play all of the time with my friends that was a 2D version of what Bike Baron is all about. And I cannot tell you the number of hours that I played with that, stretching one wheel into a figure 8 in order to pass the level, or creating my own levels for my friends to play with. Bike Baron 2 is just plain fun. And I'm so glad that they recently released it on Apple TV so that my whole family can enjoy it together. And now we have come to the hunt of the week. The hunt of the week for episode 8 is called Odio. It's a spatial soundscapes app, and I have not seen anything quite like it. It is designed specifically for having headphones on, and it does take advantage of a spatial audio mechanic where you are given all of these different tools that you structure around a circle, and you place each one of these objects either closer to or further away from you in the center and your ears. If you place one of the objects to the left, then you hear it a little bit more out of your left ear, and to the right, out of your right ear. It lets you play with 3D audio space in a way that I have not seen done in any other existing app. The closest I have seen is Endel, that is really about focus, sleeping, and relaxing music in the background that is algorithmically generated. But Odio does it very differently, where you really do get to manipulate the soundscape quite a bit. The app itself is gorgeous. The visuals really do mimic the way in which you are hearing things through your headphones. And I have found myself setting up a soundscape and just leaving it on, whether that's the waterfall soundscape or it's one of the more musical ones. You can get it to be really crunchy in the background, or you can have it be really smooth and relaxing. I have a whole bunch of different presets that I have built within Odio, and I will just go in and turn it on so that I can focus on my work. As I have said before, for an app to become the hunt of the week, it needs to bring more to the table than just a novel idea. It needs to bring joy. This app, with its spatial soundscapes, presents to me a beautiful background for everything that I want to be doing. I want to be focused. I want to be productive. And this app allows me to do that in a way that feels like I am in control. I can get it to be exactly the way that I want it to be. And then I can keep coming back to those moments and that feeling that I've created in the spatial soundscape again and again, just by opening the app and tapping on a previous session that I had created. Ultimately, the app is an enhancement to the ambient work that is going on all of the time for me. I do recommend it to anyone who wants to build those spatial soundscapes in a proactive way, who doesn't want a subscription service like the one that Endel provides, and who wants a beautiful experience that is joyful again and again. Our hunting horizon this week is all about inclusive apps. This past week was the Worldwide Developers Conference from Apple, and they gave the Apple Design Awards to a few apps that they considered inclusive. Voice Dream Reader, which is an app that I have used for years to help read long PDFs and even ebooks as a text-to-speech tool. I've been using it for years, but it has presented an inclusive argument for why text-to-speech is valuable for everybody, not just for those who cannot see. There was also an award for a game that I didn't know called HoloVista, and HoloVista presents a way of interacting that is fully accessible to anyone. You are going around in this virtual space and taking pictures of things, but anything that is within that picture window frame is then shown to you as text and spoken aloud so that anyone, even those who are visually impaired, can get an entry point into this amazing immersive world. The other thing that Apple released this week was a style guide for inclusive language, a way to talk about your customers, the people that use your apps, the way in which you're appealing to others, the way in which you use language within your applications. How do you do that more inclusively, speaking to the true diversity of all of the people that use iPhones and iPads? Because not everyone that uses an iPhone looks the same, comes from the same background, and we shouldn't treat them as if that were the case. While clearly it's not a mandate that you use inclusive language within your app, it feels wrong to intentionally try and exclude people from your service. It feels wrong to only choose representation for people that look like you. Apple doesn't always get these things right, but when they are asking for app creators to avoid biases and avoid stereotypes within their application, to have a diversity of gender identity, or to speak about disability intelligently and with respect, that is a way of heading in the right direction. So the reason why I'm bringing it up is I believe that on the hunting horizon, in the near future, we will start to see apps that pay attention to these things and are far more supportive of the true diversity of our world, rather than just looking at it as a nerd's pastime. If truly the iPhone is for everyone, so too should the apps be for everyone. Thank you so much for listening to episode 8 of The Apple Hunter. You can find the show notes and all of the links to these apps at theapplehunter.com/8. Please do follow me on Twitter at _theapplehunter. The best place to subscribe to the podcast is on Apple Podcasts for exclusive bonus episodes. I just did an amazing interview with the creators of Pock Pock Playroom, and that will be live next week as the official subscription service launches. We will also have more special developer interviews coming up soon. If you have any feedback or ideas about the show, you can reach out and contact me at ben@theapplehunter.com. Thanks so much for listening, and happy apple hunting out there.